Ah, welcome in, apprentice. Take a seat, clear your mind for a second, and really focus. You've sought out this explainer today because, well, you want to understand the absolute deepest architectures of spiritual defense. Today, you're going to learn about the Concord of Holy Orders and exactly how they rose up to confront the incredibly insidious influence of the 72 demonic crowns of Solomon. So let's just dive right into this ancient, magnificent design together and see what wisdom it holds for us.
Here is the syllabus for our journey today. We'll start with define the demonic crowns, ascend to the highest holy architecture, and then journey down through the guardians of the middle realm to the defenders of mortal lands. Finally, we'll wrap up by studying the law of concord and wielding holy power today.
All right, Section 1, Defying the Demonic Crowns.
You see, in the early days, the world really just relied on natural powers. The masters of the rivers, the storms, the harvest, and decay. But the 72 demons of Solomon, they were a completely new kind of enemy. They didn't just conquer land or sea. Actually, it was worse. They poisoned the very meaning of existence. They twisted our memory, divided houses, and literally taught kingdoms to call surrender wisdom. So to fight an enemy of meaning, a second power had to descend from the high architecture of heaven. We call this holy power. Unlike the natural, cyclical forces of root and rain, holy power governs the unbearable weight of truth and conscience.
Now, the core philosophy of this great war is absolutely vital to understand. Listen closely. Demons do not create from nothing. They can't. They gain their strength entirely through inversion. They'll take a true, genuine hunger and they bend it. They twist leadership into domination, beauty into vanity, caution into cowardice. Because of this, the angelic entities couldn't fight back simply by smashing the demonic crowns. Doing that would just leave a shattered longing behind. Instead, they fight through angelic restoration. They look at a situation and ask, okay, what good thing was stolen here? And then they act to restore it, freeing things like protective love from the suffocating grip of tyranny and fear.
Moving on to Section 2, the highest holy architecture.
At the very, very highest tier stand the Seraphim. Now, they aren't soldiers like you or I might picture them. They are living, burning acts of worship, six-winged fires whose voices alone can turn fear to ash. Their power is known as the First Radiance. But crucially, this radiance doesn't strike flesh, it strikes falsehood. Darkness survives by hiding behind super-reasonable-sounding disguises, right? Things like ambition, survival, strategy. Well, the Seraphim just burn those disguises away. There's a story of a seraph named Avariel who descended upon a greedy king. No sword was drawn, no way. The seraph simply turned every single gold mirror in the palace black, so they reflected the faces of starving children. The demon of false nobility just fled, completely starved of its excuses.
Just below that seraphic flame are the cherubim. These are the guardians of thresholds and sacred memory. They appear to us as winged watchers, lions, bulls, eagles, guarding impossible light. Demonic crowns often conquer a people by completely rewriting the past, whispering to tribes that they have literally always hated one another. Against this, the cherubim open the vault of true record. They carry a book with no pages. Once, when a cherub named Thamiel intervened in a generations-long blood feud between two clans, he didn't bring a blade. He showed them the true first day of the feud, revealing that the very first death was actually a demonic forgery. They neutralize ancestral hatred by making memory a doorway to the future rather than just a prison of the past.
We turn next to the third order, the thrones. Honestly, mortals often fear them the most. They appear as these great, turning wheels of eyes set within blue-white fire. But the thrones aren't cruel, my apprentice. They are simply exact. Their power is judgment,
completely purified of vengeance. Because demons hide behind confusion, tyrants claiming necessity, cowards claiming patience, the thrones measure every single consequence. Once, a wicked general built massive statues of himself. A throne named Orathiel descended. The statues didn't fall. Instead, their stone mouths just began reciting the names of the general's victims from sunrise all the way to nightfall. The thrones exist to destroy the illusion that power can somehow outrun truth.
Let's step down to Section 3, Guardians of the Middle Realm.
Here we find the dominions. This is the order that governs authority itself. Mortals often foolishly expect dominions to bless a hierarchy just because it exists. But dominions wear armor made of morning cloud, and they carry the scepter without hunger. They actively test authority to ensure it actually serves life rather than just consuming it. When a desperate city lord once ordered his people into forced labor, claiming it was for unity and defense, a dominion appeared and asked him simply, "Whom does your command protect when all are broken by obeying it?" The dominions break that demonic enchantment that tries to tell rulers that fear is the same thing as loyalty.
Next up are the virtues, the bearers of holy force within creation. They carry what's called the breath of continuance. Demonic crowns absolutely love to drain our will to live. They want to make people stop planting crops, stop making promises to each other. So to combat this crushing despair, the virtues perform quiet miracles. A virtue isn't going to drop gold from the sky. Instead, they'll walk barefoot right into a dead, poisoned field, place warmth into the weary hands of the farmers, and essentially teach the world how to begin again. They are incredibly dangerous to darkness because they look exactly like the first breath after grief.
Now, consider the powers. They are the stern border wardens standing between visible and invisible harm, and they wield the shield of discernment. Why is this shield so crucial? Well, because the 72 demons rarely just announce themselves. They arrive as flattering advisors, lucky omens, or radiant, beautiful dreams. The shield of discernment doesn't just block attacks, it tests intention. There's a record of a demon disguised as an angel who offered a monk perfectly accurate prophecies just to gain control over him. A power stepped in and revealed the angel's wings were actually hooks, and its halo is a chain. The powers protect us against beautiful deceptions, teaching us that, hey, not every shining thing is holy.
Which brings us closer to the soil in Section 4, Defenders of Mortal Lands.
Down here, the principalities govern our collective destinies, our towns, our tribes, our marketplaces. Demonic crowns love to corrupt people by taking their shared identity and turning it into a weapon. A nation suddenly thinks it becomes great by inventing enemies and despising outsiders. To counter this, principalities raise the banner of vocation. Once, 7 trade towns were on the brink of war over false rumors and counterfeit coins. A principality showed them their true, forgotten purpose. They were bridge cities. They were meant to keep food and medicine moving. Principalities prevent our differences from being crowned as hatred by reminding a divided community of its true unifying vocation.
Ah, the archangels. Even though they sit lower in the hierarchy, their fame is immense, and for good reason. They are the captains of interruption. They appear at the grand, pivotal turning points of fate, carrying the trumpet of decision. When this trumpet sounds, it doesn't force anyone's obedience, but it completely and utterly destroys neutrality. In an empire that was entirely corrupted by hidden demonic influence, an archangel blew this trumpet, and it caused masks to physically appear over the houses of the guilty. Cowards finally knew they were cowards. Betrayers knew their time was up. Archangels force absolute honesty onto the battlefield at the exact hour it is most needed.
Finally, we reach the lowest order. But mark my words, the lowest is absolutely not the weakest. The angels are defined by the nearness of their ordinary mercy.
If the Seraphim are blinding suns, angels are the ninth lantern, small, but exactly what a lost traveler needs in the dark. Demons prepare their massive catastrophes through countless tiny concessions, a lie ignored here, a wound mocked there. Angels answer that with tiny interventions of love. An angel once disguised itself as an old woman in a candle shop and spent years showing a bullied, humiliated boy that broken wax could still hold a flame. Because of her patience, that boy grew up and refused the temptation to become a tyrant. Angels stop tyrants before they are even born through attentive mercy.
So, here is the crucial takeaway. This hierarchy is not some ladder of vanity. It's a river of descent. The source is one single unified light, but the form it takes changes as it flows downward to us. It begins as unbearable purity with the Seraphim. Then it becomes restored courage with the virtues. And finally, it arrives as ordinary mercy with the angels. Why? Because mortals simply cannot always survive the sudden, blinding exposure of pure truth. Mercy has to know the exact size of the wound to heal it, without totally blinding the mortal who bears it.
Section 5. The Law of Concord.
Now here's a massive warning. No holy order is complete when it's separated from the others. Demons so often win by isolating good things. Think about it for a second. Justice alone, without angelic mercy, that just becomes brutal vengeance. Mercy alone, without the exact judgment of the thrones, that becomes cowardly denial. Courage on its own just becomes violence. Once, when a village caught a murderer, a throne measured the guilt, sure, but an angel simultaneously shielded the murderer's child from the trauma of the execution, and a cherub preserved the victim's name. The law of Concord ensures that holy power remains a complete wholeness, not isolated brutality. It's the shield that prevents the holy from becoming the exact same darkness it's fighting.
And finally, Section 6, Wielding Holy Power Today. So, what does this all mean for us? How do you translate these ancient, high fantasy virtues into actual tools for your own life? First, when you're faced with the modern toxicity of misinformation and all those beautiful deceptions online, raise the shield of discernment. Really test the intentions of what you read. Second, practice angelic restoration. When dealing with inherited trauma or broken relationships, ask what good was stolen and release your possessive control over it. Third, in our divided communities, raise the banner of vocation. Remember your shared human purpose rather than retreating into comfortable tribal hatred. And finally, combat the daily doom scroll of despair with attentive mercy. Answer the tiny cruelties in your day with tiny, precise, persistent interventions of love.
This brings us to a profoundly beautiful truth, spoken by the Archangel Seraphim at the very end of the ancient texts. He said, "Holy power does not remove the world from its trial. It teaches the world how to stand within it. True spiritual defense, my apprentice, does not offer an escape hatch from reality. It doesn't work like that. It offers the resilience to face those 72 crowns of distortion and stand incredibly firm, completely unbent."
Our lesson is concluded, but honestly, the work is just beginning. The demonic crowns still deeply fear the absolute smallest lantern carried by a soul that remembers why it was made. So I want to leave you with this final, vital question to think about. In a world constantly fighting against distortion and despair, how will you carry your lantern today? Go forth and let your light be exact.